What if the man you buried last year just knocked on your front door tonight? Because in this small American town, some secrets don't stay in the ground for long. Rain poured down over a quiet street in Seattle, tapping against the windshield of a car that didn't know where it belonged. Inside sat a man staring at the steering wheel like it was supposed to tell him who he was. His name was Ethan Cole, or at least that's what the hospital bracelet said. Everything else? Blank. No memories, no fragments, not even a face he could claim as familiar. But one name kept echoing in his head: Lila. He didn't know who she was. He didn't know why the sound of that name made his chest ache, but it was all he had. The doctors called it trauma-induced amnesia. They told him sometimes the mind protects itself by locking away what hurts. But if that was true, why did remembering her name feel like the wound itself? Weeks passed. Ethan stayed in a small motel off Interstate 5, living off diner coffee and leftover hope. He carried a notebook everywhere, writing down things that might trigger something. Smells, faces, songs on the radio. Nothing. Except the name. Lila. Sometimes he'd wake up in the middle of the night whispering it, as if she'd been standing right there. One evening, while watching the sunset burn orange over Lake Union, he noticed something strange. The tattoo on his wrist, a small outline of a bird, looked unfinished. A faded L was inked beneath it. L. He drove to a small tattoo parlor downtown. The artist, a woman in her 40s, froze when she saw him. Her cigarette dropped from her fingers. "Jesus," she whispered. "You're supposed to be dead." Ethan's stomach twisted. "Do you know me?" She nodded slowly, her hands trembling. "You came in here about a year ago. You said you were doing it for her. Said you'd come back when she said yes." Ethan leaned forward. "Who?" "Lila," she said. The room tilted. His pulse thundered. He wanted to ask more, but his mind felt like it was fighting him. Flashes, too fast to hold. A porch light, a woman laughing, the sound of glass breaking. Then, darkness. He stumbled out of the shop, the rain now pouring again, washing the world into silver and gray. He drove without knowing where. Only the road knew his direction. Somewhere in him, something was pulling, a memory, or maybe fate. He stopped in front of a small, white house with a red door. The curtains were drawn, but a porch light glowed faintly through the rain. The same porch light from his flash. His heart pounded. He stepped out, every nerve alive, every step shaking. He knocked. The door opened halfway. A woman stood there, brown hair tied back, eyes wide in shock. For a long second, no one spoke. Then she whispered, barely audible, "Ethan?" He didn't answer. He couldn't. Because just then, something shattered behind his eyes, a rush of memories colliding, fragments of love and fire, of promises broken under stormy skies. And among them, one face, one scream, one night he tried to forget. He took a step back, voice trembling. "What did I do to you?" She didn't answer, her eyes filled with tears. "You really don't remember, do you?" He shook his head slowly. "I remember your name." The porch light flickered once, and in that flicker, a shadow moved behind her inside the house. Tall, still, watching. Ethan froze. "Who's in there?" Lila's lips parted, but before she could speak, the door slammed shut. Ethan's heart jolted. He pounded on the wood, rain dripping from his hair, his voice raw. "Lila, open the door! Who's in there?" No answer. Only the echo of his fists against the door, and the sound of someone moving inside. Slow, deliberate steps on hardwood floors. He tried the handle, locked. He stepped back, staring through the rain-streaked window. Inside, he could see Lila's silhouette, trembling, her hand covering her mouth. And behind her, that same shadow, taller, moving closer. Ethan's chest tightened. Something inside him screamed to run, but something stronger told him to stay. He circled around the house, found the back porch unlocked, and slipped inside. The air smelt like cinnamon and old wood. Every corner whispered familiarity, like he'd been here before. Photographs lined the hallway. A woman smiling, a backyard barbecue, a man beside her with his arm around his waist. His face, but younger, happier. He reached out to touch the frame, his fingers shaking. And then he heard her voice behind him. Ethan, stop. He turned. Lila stood at the end of the hallway, eyes red, holding a framed picture tight to her chest. You shouldn't be here. He took a step forward. I need to know, who was that man? Why do I remember you but nothing else? Her lips trembled. Because you tried to forget. The words hit him like a blade. What do you mean? She looked away, tears running down her cheeks. You weren't supposed to survive that night. The floor creaked behind him. Ethan turned and saw a man standing in the doorway. Tall, rugged, eyes cold as winter. A small scar cut across his chin. He held something in his hand, not a weapon, but a photograph. He tossed it at his feet. Ethan bent down. The photo showed the three of them, him, Lila, and the stranger, all smiling on a summer day by a lake. On the back, in faded ink, were the words, forever, no matter what. Ethan's voice broke. Who are you? The man stared at him, his jaw tight. You really don't remember? Silence hung heavy between them, filled only by the ticking of the old wall clock. Lila whispered, barely holding herself together. Ethan, he's your brother. Ethan blinked, heart racing, a wave of nausea rising. No, that can't be. But before he could finish, a sudden flash ripped through his head. A fight near the lake, shouting, headlights, then a scream. The same scream that had haunted his dreams. Lila's voice. He staggered back, gripping the wall. Pieces were falling into place too fast, too sharp. He looked at her again, her eyes filled with fear and something deeper. Guilt. Lila, he whispered. What happened that night? The thunder rolled outside, shaking the windows. Lila's hand slipped from the frame picture. She took one step forward, trembling. You both loved me, she said softly, but only one of you was supposed to come back. The thunder cracked across the sky, echoing through the small house as if the heavens themselves were watching. Ethan's breath came heavy, his eyes locked on Lila's trembling hands. The gun glimmered under the porch light's flicker, the rain outside casting shadows that danced across her face. "Ethan, don't," Lila whispered, her voice cracking. "I don't know what happened that night, but I know I loved you. I know that." Her tears fell silently, one after another. "I loved you too," she said, "but love didn't save us. It destroyed everything." Ethan's brother, standing just a few steps behind, lowered his head. His voice was tight, edged with years of anger that had finally turned to sorrow. "We were drunk, all three of us. You two were fighting, about me. I told you to stop. You didn't listen." He swallowed hard, his jaw trembling. "You shoved me. I slipped. The rocks." He stopped, his voice breaking. "You thought I was dead." The room fell silent. Only the rain spoke. Ethan's knees weakened. He felt the world tilt again, but this time, not from confusion, from truth. He looked at his hands like they belonged to someone else. "I tried to forget," he said quietly. "I must have forced myself to forget." Lila nodded slowly, her gaze hollow. "And I let you. You couldn't live with what happened, so I told them you were gone too. But you came back." The sound of thunder rolled again, distant but endless. Ethan took a step closer, his eyes soft now, not searching, not demanding, just filled with the weight of everything he finally remembered. "Lila, it doesn't have to end like this." She looked at him for a long, trembling second. Then, her fingers loosened. The gun slipped from her hand, landing softly on the rug, and she fell against him, sobbing into his chest, years of guilt and grief collapsing all at once. Ethan wrapped his arms around her, closing his eyes. The smell of the rain and cinnamon filled the air again, the same scent from their old kitchen before everything went wrong. His brother turned away, his silhouette framed by the window's gray light. He said quietly, "You both died that night, but maybe now you can live." The rain outside softened. Lila pulled back, her face pale, eyes searching his. "Do you remember now?" she whispered. Ethan hesitated, then nodded, tears in his eyes. "I remember. Enough." They stood there, three souls tied by love, regret, and a past that refused to stay buried. The clock ticked softly on the wall, each second marking the space between who they were and who they could still become. Outside, the storm finally broke, and, somewhere between the thunder and silence, Ethan whispered her name again, not in pain this time, but in peace.